This is another episode of the Flight Ringers podcast. I'm David King. That's Dan Spottswood.
It's good to be here. Thank you.
We are professional cartoonists, and we are Legion of Superheroes experts. All right, this is going to be the letters page, Super Talk for Superboy number 211.
I think I like that name better than all the others. Super Talk.
Oh, better than like Legion Outpost or Smallville Mail Sack.
I guess it's not as evocative, but it's not as Legion specific. But they should bring back Super Talk.
I was actually going to try and call our YouTube show Super Talk, but I think somebody else had already taken it. Some very creative person had already taken it.
For like 2 episodes 7 years ago.
Yeah, probably.
All right.
It's still, what I came up with is still better. What, you son of a bitch.
Well, Super Talk, you immediately know what it's about. There's about 4 people who know when they hear Flight Ringers what that means. It's okay. We're self-selecting of our audience.
All right, I'll change it.
It's too late now. It's good.
Actually, I was thinking about the word, like the phrase, Flight Ringers, and I'm like, people going to think we're right-wingers?
God damn it. Well, maybe we'll get more traffic that way.
Yeah, it's working so far.
Yeah, so...
Super Talk, Superboy 211. Who's the editor of this issue? Do you remember? Boltnoff,
Murray
right?
Boltnoff.
So I assume he's answering the letters. Maybe he has an assistant who's answering them. The letters page starts out with a note from the editor that says the U.S. Postal Service should never suffer a deficit. Judging by our multitude of mail, it should enjoy a surplus. What is it about the Legion that turns on readers? Lend an ear.
It's all the skin.
Probably.
Especially once Mike Grell takes over.
Yeah, Shadowlass turns me on.
Cosmic Boy. It's in like a one piece.
I don't think he has it yet. He was wearing the old costume in this issue.
That's the doppelganger, though.
Oh, he hasn't got the memo yet. There's a new Cosmic Boy costume. The first letter is from Masao Kono of Hawaii. He says there's a real-life Cosmic Boy, Uri Geller of Israel.
Oh.
He's a psychic. He specializes in Cosmic Boy's power of super magnetism. Geller can cause a metal object, a spoon, for example. He's very famous for bending the spoons. He can cause a metal object to bend just by rubbing it gently. More incredibly, the spoon continues to bend by itself after Uri has stopped rubbing it. No less a prestigious place than the Stanford Research Institute studied Uri's magnetic power and concluded his power was not phony. And the editor says, yeah, we saw him on TV and we were impressed.
He showed up in an issue of Daredevil, apparently.
What, like on screen? Like the real Uri Geller? What? And he's bending a pipe?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Daredevil 133, 1976. He has like powers in the Daredevil. Should they?
Wow.
They went all
canon.
Out. Yeah.
He was so big, and he's still around. I saw him on, I can't remember. I watch a couple of these paranormal things lately. Oh, you know what he was in? He was in the...
Like a Where Are They Now?
No, he was in this movie about remote viewing, this documentary. Quote-unquote documentary.
Right.
About remote viewing, where I think it follows around a guy from the Stanford Research Institute who was doing the remote viewing study. And he goes to talk to Uri Geller, and they treat Uri Geller like a legit whatever, like he really has superpowers.
Right. Okay, the spoon thing was bullshit, but this stuff is real.
Yeah.
Art Bell was really into remote viewing, as I recall.
I mean, I'm curious about it. I don't know that it's a whole other subject from the stuff that Uri Geller was doing. I don't know. People watching this on YouTube should check out the clip of Amazing Randy or it's from the Amazing Randy documentary where they talk about how he debunked Uri Geller on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson.
Yeah, I think that those clips are on YouTube as well.
Yeah, they're all over, I'm sure. Where Amazing Randy told Carson the questions to ask and the way to control the experiment, and Uri Geller like, I'm having trouble getting my powers. It's just not coming to me. I'm weak or whatever, and he couldn't bend the spoons.
Yeah, that was really cool.
But it wasn't enough to totally debunk him.
Right.
In the eyes of some people, evidently. If my whole business was bending spoons whenever at will, and then fucking Johnny Carson somehow kept me from doing it, like, I would be embarrassed, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, Letterman fucked up my experiment. Letterman used his own powers to keep me from bending the spoons. Like, Letterman doesn't have any powers. He's just a dude. He's a comedian. But, I don't know, whatever. Uri Geller's kind of a phony, but back in the 70s, he was huge. The readers of Legion of Superheroes thought he was a real-life Cosmic Boy, and the editors, too, supposedly.
Well, and he kind of looked the part in his younger days.
Yeah, he was. He
kind of looks like he could be a 70s Cosmic Boy.
Yeah, kind of a dreamboat, right?
Uh-huh.
You know, I think even on that Carson show, like he only had like the bottom two buttons of his shirt buttoned, and the rest is butterfly collar, that kind of deal.
Right.
Anne McGee writes in an aside to Cary Bates, reveals his star, Rigel, in Arabic means foot. Cary Bates must have put in a star and named it Rigel. And she says that word means foot in the Arabic language. And asks, does that mean Ayla and Jeckie, those are Light Lass and Princess Projectra, does that mean they had foot fever? Oh yeah, it was Rigel fever. That was what was going to kill. Is that what was going to kill? I guess those girls must have got Rigel fever.
Maybe it's like space athlete's foot.
Yeah. I bet that really itched. I bet those two girls' boyfriends were turned off. Timberwolf was like, I don't know. I mean, I have dirt under my claws, but
as I recall, there's like she had like a very erotic reaction to it, right? She's like having like sex dreams, or she's in sexy poses while she's sweating it out.
Oh, that wasn't Rigel fever though.
Oh, there's a different.
That was just that was a different story where she just like was in a coma for some reason.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, all the artwork was traced out of Cherry magazine.
Right. There's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Is it Cherry or Sherry? There's a girl who I went to grade school with named Sherry, and it was spelled the same way as the adult magazine.
Oh.
I think at that age we didn't know. We didn't know that our classmate was named after the adult magazine Sherry.
How does Frankie Valli spell it?
Oh, I don't know. Probably like the liquor, like Sherry. Sherry.
Mm-hmm.
Sherry baby. Remember when you used to hear those songs on the radio when we were kids? Like they had an oldies station that played that kind of shit?
Yeah, they still have that station. Only it like plays like Pearl Jam and stuff now.
Right, yeah. It plays John Mellencamp and Cyndi Lauper and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Jim Kosinski and Tim Blaze urge more stories about the substitute heroes.
Is that an editor's note?
Yeah, this is not like your typical letters page where it's like they print the whole letter and it says "Dear Editor" and there's a paragraph and then it's signed by. It's more like a roundup, the whole thing.
Yeah, I think maybe the last letters column we covered was kind of like that too.
Could be. I think that Karate Kid one was sort of written that way.
Mm-hmm.
And the editor says, "Hear that, Carrie and Jim?" And that's all he says about it. They say, "Sorry, Steve Biondi, but try as we do, we can't be responsible for grievous color errors committed by a lazy engraver." Color errors all due to laziness.
But it was the engraver, not the colorist.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't anybody at DC. It was somebody at another company.
Passing
who was
the
being
buck.
Lazy. Well, it wasn't even a mistake. It's somebody lazy. You know?
Even worse.
Like this isn't even his own underling, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like it'd be one thing if like he's talking like a manager, boss, piece of crap
Mm-hmm.
of somebody who's under him. He's talking about somebody else who's lazy at another company.
Should have named him.
World Color, Steve Johnson, lazy. He makes too much money for what he does. He's so lazy.
You're going to get a very angry email from this man. He's just going to happen to exist.
Right. He's only 117 years old now.
Right.
Mark Timson worries about the future death of Shadowlass. And just like a gal, Sarah Cheatham anticipates a romance between Saturn Girl and Sunboy.
Damn.
The detail about Mark Timson worrying about the death of Shadowlass, why'd they put that in there? There's no follow-up at all.
Once again, I just don't get why people get hung up about that.
Yeah.
In Legion specifically, because it's a trope or whatever, and how many future Superman stories and Hulk stories or whatever have we seen where the guys have turned evil or died or whatever, and they're not like every issue having someone complain about it and worrying that this means they're going to have to follow through and kill off a character.
Yeah, I mean, I guess just these kids, they believed it back then, and I suppose it must be, they must feel like it's coming to a head, right? Like
Right.
this Shadowlass, she was prophesied to die whenever that was in that Adult Legion comic, however long ago that was. This is 1975, and
Mm-hmm.
it was 10 years ago. They said she was going to die in the future, and so now we're getting close. They must be in Adult Legion days now, right? So she might be dying. It might be dying
Right.
any time. Maybe that's why they decided to print this letter.
Right. Levitz put it to rest. He had to do something about it. That's why he became a Legion writer. He had to fix it.
But that's still, well, that was still like 7 years after this or something, right?
Yeah. What?
This guy, Mark Timpson's been on the edge of his seat since 1965. He doesn't get resolution until 1981 or 2. Must suck to be a fan back in those days. You never
Was
know.
it that early? I think it might have been even later than that. I think it's 1984. That's what it feels like to me.
Oh.
Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it
Well,
wasn't.
was it in Legion 300?
Yeah, the group photo issue.
I have it right here.
Of course you do.
I have 3
That's
copies.
several
of
of
this
them right there.
right here handy for some reason.
Right. Though you hate the cover, right?
I don't really like it. No.
Yeah.
It's 1983. This guy Mark Timpson, he was worried about the fate of Shadowlass for many years. But then Sarah Cheatham, she's for some reason anticipates a romance between Saturn Girl and Sunboy, and I don't think they ever had anything. They didn't even bump into each other in the hallway. Those two.
I don't know. Never could tell with that guy. Never can tell with that guy.
You think maybe Prody was not the first redhead that fooled around with Saturn Girl?
Oh, man. I don't know. I thought maybe there was something between... Not a relationship. I can't remember.
I think Saturn Girl is always very solidly involved with Lightning Lad. Never anyone else.
Did she pine for Superboy as well? Maybe early on? I feel like all the ladies on the team liked him early on. Him and sometimes Mon-El.
Oh, Mon-El pined for Superboy along with the other girls. Is that what you mean?
Oh, yeah. He was real into it.
I mean, I could see that. That's probably something he did, like, as if, like, I don't know, like, if, you know, like
He's
when
the
you're
star
in high
of the
school,
book.
like, well, yeah. But also, like, if some, like, imagine when you were in junior high, like, some heartthrob from the past showed up.
Right.
Sean Cassidy shows up, and all the girls are like, oh, they're all fanning themselves, and they're like, damn, maybe he could be my boyfriend.
He's like the captain of their football team.
And Sean Cassidy's like, sorry, girls, I have to go return to 10 years ago. We can't be together. I have a life 10 years ago. This is the far future.
That would be like, what if he had like knocked up Triplicate Girl in the 30th century while he was still in high school in the 40s or 50s or whenever it is?
Sean Cassidy?
No, Superboy. Would he?
I don't think Superboy can get a girl pregnant, so wouldn't have to worry about that.
Could he ghost her? Could he ghost her? Or she knows where he is. She could always look in the history books. Would he tell his parents? Would he be in trouble for that? Because, I mean, this is 1,000 years in the future.
I don't think he would tell anybody. I think he would use X-ray vision to shine on her.
Oh, damn. Maybe all the ladies he knocked up, he just like imprisons in the Fortress of Solitude in their own little museum set pieces.
Right, their own zoo habitat, and he
with big
replaces them with a robot.
Right. But what happens if he knocked up one body of Triplicate Girl and, like, say, Bouncing Boy knocked up another one? Or one of them wasn't pregnant at all? What happens when they merge together?
Something fucked up, that's for sure.
Why is anybody writing letters like this? The important questions.
Hey, Mort.
Mort has an answer.
What happens?
Mort has an answer.
What happens if one of her bodies gets fucked by Superboy? One of her bodies gets fucked by Bouncing Boy.
Man, it'd be pretty complicated.
What if she gets pregnant by Superboy with All the way from Frankfurt, Germany, Chris S. Worthy asks for a Cosmic Boy Chronicle. We have Dandy Jim Shooter's new script on hand, teasing that there is a Cosmic Boy script. Maybe, I guess, where Cosmic Boy shows up in a new sexy costume, I guess, is probably what that's about. Ira Matetsky thinks they should change the Constitution to allow more members? Fewer members.
Only girls, except for Superboy.
Yeah, that'll be all right. Superboy would like that. The Legion Constitution allows only 25 members. Ridiculous. Change it, he urges. I think they're trying to say that Ira Matetsky wants more members. But Larry Zaborski has a complaint that there's too many members. But yeah, Ira wants to change the Constitution to allow more Legionnaires and repeal the Second Amendment.
Mm-hmm. What's the Second Amendment?
The right to bear arms.
Bear arms, yep.
A lot of people liked issue 208.
Oh.
Andrew Lee, Scott Taylor, Theodore Miller, Greg Stamey, Paul Birnbaum, Sally Ferranti, Joe Duffy. I wonder if that's the famous comic book writer Joe Duffy. But then there's somebody named Jack Frost, pseudonym.
Mm-hmm.
Clint Buck Thomas, Will Nash, Adam J. Stegner, Dennis Glasscock, Alex Feddick, Scott Gibson, James Hogak, Black Wolf, David Hake, Reading and Writing Bob Rohde. That's the famous Robert Rohde, the author. And Charles David Haskell, who found a resemblance between Mike Grell's Dr. Kenrick and reality's own war criminal, Dr. Henry Kissinger.
Oh, man.
I wonder if Mike Grell knew that Kissinger was a war criminal even back in those days.
That's crazy. I'm looking at it now. He looks more like Truman to me. I guess old guys with glasses look the same.
You think Truman was a war criminal?
It's a tough one.
Would you consider him in the same class as characters like Dr. Henry Kissinger and any president with the last name of Bush and Barack Obama?
I think pretty much every American president is a war criminal.
Yeah.
At least in modern time. And certainly Truman. I
mean,
I hear he was a good
Truman,
guy, but
he dropped the bombs. Or was it Roosevelt dropped the bombs? Okay, if Truman dropped the bombs, he was a war
it was
criminal
dropped on his watch. It was dropped on his watch, but I think Roosevelt initiated all that. It was already in motion, but he signed off on it.
Yeah, it's messed up.
And then they dropped another one. They dropped two of them.
Man.
Just
Did
insane.
you ever read that comic? I didn't even read the whole thing. I read a little bit of that Barefoot Gen book. It's this manga. It ran a lot of books
Mm-hmm.
But also, you may have seen these in dollar bins. It's a book called I Saw It.
Uh-huh.
It's about the author is a guy, and it's sort of biographical, where he is a survivor of the bombing,
Uh-huh.
and he's a kid coming home from school when the bomb is dropped, and he happens to be standing against like a cinder block wall, and so
Holy shit.
the heat doesn't melt him or destroy him, but like everybody in his family gets killed, or his father and brother die immediately, of course. His mother dies of radiation poisoning.
Oh my God.
His sister dies of radiation poisoning. But he tells the story of all the people. Like he's trying to get back to his house, and he gets helped by people, and the dude who's helping him while he's helping him to get home, this dude who's helping him like starts to melt and die, and his skin burns off and falls off.
Oh
and
my God.
It's the most horrifying thing. And I'm like, but I read a little bit of this thing, and I'm like, if you showed this to like high school kids, you would never have anybody say we should nuke them, you know?
Right.
That would disappear. Just knowing that this is the truth and this is what really happens when you drop a nuclear bomb on people, on a place. Right. But like, they don't really explain that to you when they're talking about World War II and dropping the bombs, Fat Man, Little Boy, or whatever the fuck. It's like this dumb bullshit about like military superiority. They say in school, yeah, it was bad. We probably shouldn't have done that.
Right.
The United States is the only country that's ever used nuclear weapons on anybody in this way.
Right.
But
twice.
They don't tell you this story of like what it's really like. They make you think that you get bombed and you're blown up and you're dead. It's not like that. It's much more awful than that.
I guess in a roundabout way, the bullshit idea that it saved lives in the long run might be true, and that it was so fucking horrific that at least so far, no one has dared do it again. But I mean, maybe if they hadn't, there could have been a bigger escalation. I don't know. I don't want to make excuses for the government either, though. Like,
it was just kind of this macho show of force, typical of America.
Right.
It's fucked up. Truman, you're a war criminal. You could have stopped this. Truman, Eisenhower, JFK, Nixon,
Johnson,
for
sure.
Ford, you're definitely a war criminal. Actually, he's probably the only one who's not necessarily.
He might not have had time.
Exactly. I guess Carter's probably not a war criminal. Reagan, Clinton, Bush, Obama, you guys, you're war criminals. Go to jail.
I think Ford and Carter probably are too, just because there was shit going on that they didn't bother stopping.
All right, let's get back to this letters page. Let's wrap this up so we can go to bed. Frank James Sanner wants new uniforms. Everybody wants to get in on the act. What's the matter with their customary custom-made uniforms, Frank? So the editor seems like he's not into getting new uniforms, but Frank wants them. Everybody's getting them. Everybody's going to get new uniforms, I think, eventually. Like this Cosmic Boy one, it's on the way out, if it's not already out. These substitute heroes, they got new ones in this issue.
Has Grell been on board for a while, or?
Well, I mean, 200 was still Cockrum, right?
Yep. Yes, it was.
I think maybe
been on the book very long.
207 was maybe the first Grell issue. So he hasn't been on it too long. He hasn't given Cosmic Boy a new costume, I don't think. And maybe that's the last new costume. I guess there's a new Laurel or a new Night Girl costume, maybe a new Laurel Kent costume. She's a new character altogether, isn't she?
She's a new character altogether.
Yeah.
But the Night Girl one we see next issue. You know, of course, it was you and cartoonist Zach Soto who revealed to me that he was, in fact, wearing a different costume, Cosmic Boy was. I always just assumed the coloring was bad or off a little bit, and that he was wearing a variation of his Silver Age costume with sleeves and pant legs. I thought surely you guys were joking. It
Oh,
can't be. I was horrified.
You know, Zach Soto strikes me as the kind of guy who has revealed lots of secrets of adulthood to
Yes.
naive youngsters like you and me.
Yes, yes.
Like, if you want to know some weird shit, talk to Zach. He knows the score. He knows that Grimbor is like a BDSM freako. He's not just a guy who has chains on his costume.
Yeah.
You would go to Zach Soto for that knowledge. ZackSoto.com. ZackSoto.com. He's an editor at Oni Press Comic Books. Tell him I sent you.
Oh boy.
What happened to Chameleon Boy's gal friend Janice Warren? Asks Tom Cron. We haven't the faintest, Tom, but we'll check Lost and Found. I guess they don't want to look into the whereabouts of Janice Warren. I don't really remember her. I remember Princess Elwinda.
Wait, is that the one from the beheaded the guillotine issue?
I have no idea. I don't know if I've read that guillotine issue.
We're just gonna have to cover that because I keep bringing it up.
Issue number 207 was without doubt the best story. Listen to this. Without doubt, the best story of any single comic I ever laid my eyes on. High praise. For example, the total recall implanted in the giant picture of SPXX342-Devron on page 4 declaims Dan Karloff. Editor says, we agree, Dan. In all the years we've edited epics, Mike's was the most imaginative and impressive interpretation we've seen. So I guess he's talking about the artwork in issue 207, but it's still the very best single comic Dan Karloff has ever laid his eyes on.
Wow.
I don't know what's in 207. They're covering a lot of issues here. 208, 207, talking about 202 through 205. Somebody else writes in about. So maybe they've skipped letters pages for a couple of months or something. They've got to catch up.
Right.
William C. Horak demands we reward Mike Grell with a gold-plated award for his 207 cover. 207 is a stellar issue.
I guess. I don't know. I think I kind of like his earlier stuff. Maybe he's trying to look a little bit more like Dave Cockrum or something, but
yeah, when you see him in black and white, they do sort of follow the lead of Cockrum. Fantastic, stupendous, amazing. Which noun do these describe?
Marvel books.
Howard Cosell's opinion of himself? Better than that. Number 205 and 206 are described by those words. Gloats Tom Bierbaum. I'm ranting about you for having used some of my very own suggestions. Tom Bierbaum's already getting plot points into issues 205 and 206. Tom Bierbaum is famous for being the co-writer of Legion of Superheroes. Way in the future, 15 years from this issue, writing Legion of Superheroes.
That is correct. And as a side note, because of his work on trying to figure out the years in the continuity, I have determined that this issue happened in July of 2981.
Oh, okay. So the events of the new Legion of Superheroes issue number 1 from our 1989 happened in 2995, right?
Yeah, it was 94 or 95. It's around there.
And so this issue, what'd you say, not 2981?
Mm-hmm.
Only 14 years had passed between new costumes for the Legion of Substitute Heroes and Cosmic Boy living on war-ravaged Brawl. His coat is worth more, than a year's salary or some shit.
And 2981 is, I think, 9 years after they formed as a team. So these guys,
okay.
they're around 20, like 24, 23, 24.
Mm-hmm.
Which I guess they're always kind of 23, 24. But here they really are.
Oh, yeah. You mean even when they're like supposed to be 14, they're 24?
Right. Or 30, they're 24. Heroes are always, they always physically look like they're in their mid-20s.
That's kind of like you and me.
Yeah. Yeah. A little less tone. A little grayer, but yeah.
I mean, we have a couple of beers.
We'll see. We see how these guys look when they're our age. So.
Carolyn Edgerton and Scott Baker zero in with the same appeal. How about a limited collector's edition of the LSH, including their awesome origins? Could be. I think maybe they haven't come out with the first of the Treasury Legion books at this point. The first one reprinted some Mordru stuff, and
right, we covered
the second
that.
one. Right, we did a video about that a while back.
And the second one is the wedding.
All right, the wedding of Lightning Lad and Saturn Girl, of Prody and Saturn Girl. That's Super Talk for Superboy 211. And to bring down the curtain for this issue, in the immortal words of Shirley Ann McNutt,
Long live the Legion forever.
see you in 30 days.